up? It's me. I just wanted to know if you watched the news. If you did, I'm sure you saw that everything Skyfall predicted is happening.
We've gone in a pretty short period of time from the U.S. military not really acknowledging that there is such a thing to them acknowledging that these sightings are so frequent they need a formal process for reporting them. They say they have multiple sightings per month.
Yeah, this isn't like a once a year, or maybe you can't excuse it as a falling star. This is happening a lot.
Not only that, I just talked to Craig, and he is freaked the fuck out, and I would be too. Somebody was following him and filming him, in which this person sent him a video of them filming him from behind, and sent the video to his phone. And on top of that, the Australian government got a hold of him, and they served him with a gun, and they're not telling him who it is. But what's crazy about that, dude, is we know for a fact now, and we can prove that there is a third party that has an interest in all of our communications. We can prove it. Give me a call, dude. And then I got another phone call from Nikki, in which she said, Chad, they are watching our house. And she said he had some kind of mask on that had a light glow to it. Well, I guess Craig had saw him out there and maneuvered himself around to take this photo.
I've seen the photo. It's a freaky picture. It's disturbing, for sure.
You have reached the voicemail box of
Chad Calek.
Chad, it's Nikki. I need to talk to you. This is my number that's hopefully come up on your mobile. Something's happened today, and it's not safe for Craig to give you a call.
How far would you go with it? You know what I mean? Would you stop right there and just say, you know what? I'll work my life. Fuck it.
Yeah, I don't know. But there's somebody following me. I need to know fucking why before I do anything.
Yeah.
I'm one dude. They're a fucking empire.
Yeah.
God damn it, I better be careful.
You know, the footage that I have of stuff is kept somewhere else. You know, there are people hanging around here. You know, it's fucking scary. And I've got a wife and kids to worry about as well. And all this fucking shit's going on. It's just, yeah, it's crazy. It is crazy.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Chad Calek here, and welcome back to the In a Crowded Room podcast, where before we get rolling with episode number 58, I just wanted to share the trailer that I just released with all of you to Phantom Rider, the prelude to Paleface, which is my next documentary that I'm releasing as a follow-up to Two-Face the Grey and Sir No Face. In fact, yesterday's podcast was about this trailer and the entire case and the story, and I sincerely hope if you haven't listened that you will go back and listen. And we're doing everything we can right now to obviously continue this story and make it back out to Australia in September to film Paleface, which I believe will be the final push for answers to this case. Very serious case with very serious consequences. And you can help us out by pre-ordering Phantom Rider, the prelude to Paleface, if you are in fact able to do so. Having said that, I'm going to turn the tone a little bit lighter here for episode number 58, as I'm going to talk about the unbelievable fail that the finale, in fact, the last two episodes of Game of Thrones, how bad they were. In fact, I'm going to go as far as to say that this was the greatest travesty ever filmed for a successful series. Now, let me also start by saying I was a huge late bloomer when it comes to hopping on the bandwagon for Game of Thrones. In fact, I had never watched a single episode of Game of Thrones until this past Christmas break. And that only happened because between Christmas and New Year's Day, I had several evenings with nothing to do, and Laura and I were just looking for a way to fill the time. And we had watched a lot of the series that we had planned on watching already. And we're like, well, let's give Game of Thrones a chance because people rave about it. And I thought it started very slow, and then I slowly got into the characters. And the thing about Game of Thrones that I liked is it was very Shakespearean in the sense that there's like 30 main characters, and they all intertwine at some point or another with each other in the most unique ways. And it takes a long time to get all the characters and all their stories and to keep them straight in your head and to remember the names and the family names. And if you've never seen the series, what it is in a nutshell is 7 different kingdoms, basically, that are all kind of at war with each other. And there's a handful of people that want to be a singular king of all 7 kingdoms and sit in the Iron Throne. Hence the name Game of Thrones. Now, the first 6 seasons were done really well. The pacing was great, and they developed these characters very slow, and you basically got a real handle on who they are. Season 7 kind of sped up at times, and it seemed like there were big storylines that you just jumped way ahead. And then this year, it's just been so bizarre. And it's been so bizarre for some obvious to me, I guess, Hollywood reasons, which we'll talk about in a bit, which are very commonplace. But the final finale episode was just weird, horrible, boring, predictable, strange. It was just not fun to watch, and where it went with the characters makes no sense. Again, if you haven't seen it, it's definitely worth watching, I guess, just to get to, the end. You'd have to excuse, I guess, how it all ends, but for a good 6.5 seasons, it was incredible. But there's this main character, Jon Snow, that starts out, the entire series where he's almost like a really talented swordsman that's kind of like an underling guard that is sent out to stand on this ice wall and protect these kingdoms behind the wall from what are known as the White Walkers, these half-dead, or I guess fully dead zombies that are made of like crystal and snow, and so it has some magic to it. And by the end of the series, you come to discover that he's this incredible leader, this unbelievable, swordsman. He pretty much smashes everybody that he faces, although he has been killed once and brought back to life through magic. But he's the one character throughout the entire thing that always kind of did the right thing. And then you learn at the very end that his last name, Snow, was kind of like John Doe or Jane Doe. It was a name given to him as a bastard son. But as it turns out, he is in fact the heir to the Iron Throne. So he is supposed to be the king of all these 7 kingdoms. So you're hoping at the end that that's going to happen, or else why would he have been brought back to life? Why would he have been at the center of all these conflicts in which he somehow almost single-handedly at times saved, thousands of people? And it just, spoiler alert, by the way, if you haven't seen it, because his ultimate ending is just ridiculous, and I'll get to that in a second. There's another character, Daenerys Targaryen. She is this girl that in the beginning is the sister of a brother that is heir to a kingdom, and he needs an army, so he basically gives her up to be repeatedly raped by these barbarians, in which she basically ends up giving birth to dragons in a big fire. And she has these 3 dragons that are like her children, which make her, incredibly dangerous because the dragons just can't be stopped. They obviously scorch the earth, and they're very powerful in battle. And her goal the entire time is to basically free all slaves and, basically bring justice back to all the kingdoms. And you watch her for season after season kind of develop into this like warrior queen that again is, wants to do the right thing. And in the final episode, she learns that Jon Snow, who has become her lover, is in fact related to her. And which is not only incest, but he's now a threat to her because she wants to sit in the Iron Throne. So in the final episode, she basically out of the blue turns evil, kills another main character that's a queen, and decides she's going to scorch the earth and kill every man, woman, and child that's innocent in her path because she suddenly wants to lead not with mercy or compassion, but by striking fear in people. Doesn't make any sense. It just happens. She's now just a crazy, horrible person. And Jon Snow, who's a good guy at heart, sees this. In the very end, he basically confronts her and says, why would you do this? Why would you burn all these people to the ground? Why would, you kill all these innocent people? And she pretty much explains to him it was just necessary so people know that while they have mercy, they won't build an empire off small mercies, that there has to be a level of fear. And he acts like, he understands. And then he knifes and kills her. And that's it. It's just like he just kisses her and knifes her. And he gets eventually sentenced to life back at this ice wall where he just has to serve as this underling again. So it's like, wait a minute. I watched 8 seasons for the person that is, 6.5 seasons built up to be this eventual king, to be nothing, just to go back to this wall. And I could go on and on like this about this series, but that was kind of the theme for the last episode, and especially the last season, is that all of these characters that were built to be one thing, they were just oddly written in the opposite direction. And the filmmakers just focused on special effects, which the special effects of this are the greatest special effects ever in any film that you've ever seen. Any mainstream movie, period. The second to last episode when the dragon burns down the city, I've never seen anything like that from a filmic standpoint. But I'm also just a big believer that special effects don't make a movie, man. I don't care what the movie is. It's story, 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 story. If the story's there and the special effects are there, then awesome. Marvel has proved you can do that. Look at Infinity War and Endgame. There's definitely a way to do it. And they did not do it with Game of Thrones. I could go on and on and on and on about the characters, but we'd be here all day. But it begs the question, why did this happen? Why did this incredible series for 6.5 seasons of 8, why did it go so south? Where not just me, but many people are calling this the worst epic downfall fail ever of any series. Way worse than the finale of The Sopranos, which was pretty damn bad. This was horrible. I mean, like, just nothing made sense. Who ended up being king didn't make sense. His reason for being king, this Bran guy, didn't make sense. It just didn't make sense. So, what happened? Well, I've learned a lot through different interviews and different things that I read, and I actually have a couple friends in the entertainment industry that are associated with the project, and I've talked to them about it because I was honestly just floored by how fucking bad this got, to the point of unwatchable. I mean, the finale was just fucking unwatchable. It was just boring, stupid. It didn't make any sense, given the character's trajectory. And it comes down to money. And this is what I found out. So each main character, and there's 5 main characters, what's considered 5 main characters. They all make about $700,000 an episode. So there's about $3.5 million of the budget that's above the line just on 5 characters alone. And there's a good 20 characters, 20 to 30 that are, known by name and speak. Now, the season 1 budget was $6 million an episode. And the season 8 budget, which had 6 episodes, was around $12 million an episode. Now, that is a really big budget. A really big budget for a series. Especially when you consider the level of special effects that they did. And if you watch, for those of you guys that are fans, there are behind the scenes special effects vignettes that are made on HBO. You should watch those. It'll show you how much CGI was made and how much of these sets were actually built. You'll be very surprised by how much of this series was actually physically built. A lot of it, more than I could imagine. But basically, over 50% of the budget was spent on cast alone. So they're not, putting $12 million towards each episode. They're putting below $6 million towards each episode. Now, when you see what they've done with each episode, you'll realize that it was incredible. It was incredible the lengths they were able to go with $6 million, which by Hollywood standards is a lot for a series. It's not a lot overall. And each of these episodes were like feature films. Especially the last season, each episode was like about an hour and 20 minutes, which, that comes out to about, about the length of a movie. Maybe a movie's a little bit longer. So that was a big, big, big deal. They had an increase in budget, but the money that they were able to put towards the production wasn't as much as they needed. Because of that, what was initially planned as 11 episodes had to go to 6. Okay? So a massive amount of story had to be lost as they had to jump way ahead, because this is based on the books written by George R.R. Martin. So that was a problem. And, the reason that was a problem was initially they also wanted 10 seasons. HBO wanted 10 seasons. Well, the writers of Game of Thrones, there's 2 main writers, that they're a team. They were basically poached by Disney, because Disney has put a complete halt on all the Star Wars projects. In fact, in the next 8 years, we're only going to see 3 Star Wars projects. And that's because the Solo film bombed financially. The last Star Wars film did well at the box office, but not as well as they wanted. But there was a big online revolt against The Last Jedi, which I personally loved The Last Jedi. I loved how fresh it was. I loved how new it felt. I didn't want the old, same stuff. I wanted something new. But essentially, the short version is that the writers got pulled away to work on the Star Wars franchise. So, 10 seasons got chopped down to 8 seasons. Now that is a whole lot of story that is going to be cut and chopped out. So there might have been a natural story arc in which, Daenerys goes from being this caring, loving queen and mother of dragons and all this stuff to this evil, monster that is willing to lead and take what's hers through fire and ash. But it got chopped out and they just jumped to the ending. And that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate. But that's also the result of Hollywood being a business. And these guys had the opportunity to jump from Game of Thrones into Star Wars and save what may in fact be a dying franchise since Disney took over. But something tells me Disney's going to get it right with Star Wars. They're going to put the right people on it. They already have a good format that works with J.J. Abrams. But of course, he can't do every single film for them. But that's essentially what happened. That and the reason so much of the budget is eaten up is that it's like the Deadwood effect. These actors, the more and more they become stars, the more and more they're going to demand a hefty salary for their performance. So by the time you get to a season 8, a cast member that might have been making $60,000 an episode on season 1 is now making close to $1 million per episode on season 8. So, the more money that goes in their pockets, the more money comes off the screen. But the major issue here that I see was that it went from 10 seasons of 8 to 11 episode seasons, to 8 seasons with 6 final episodes. So it was just a situation that was clearly hard to manage. And they had some really tough decisions to make as writers. But having said that, it also felt to me, like the writers just wanted to finish it. That's really what it seemed like, especially the last episode. The last episode, the finale, was just so uneventful. That and also the battle with the White Walkers. Again, if you haven't seen this series, for 7 seasons, they build up, the White Walkers are coming. The White Walkers are coming. And these White Walkers are led by what is called the Night King, which looks exactly like Darth Maul, except they're made out of ice. Darth Maul being the Star Wars dual-sabered, Jedi that was chopped in half the last time you saw him. But that also shows that the writers were very much into Star Wars to begin with, because Darth Maul and the Night King are practically interchangeable how they look. But for 7 seasons, they set up the White Walkers are coming. And what's crazy about the White Walkers is once they kill you, you become one of them. So they can turn you into one of their members of their army. Once you die, the Night King can make you a White Walker. So whenever they defeat anyone in battle, that army becomes their army and they grow exponentially. And it's totally set up for 7 seasons. The White Walkers are coming. The White Walkers are coming. And this is going to be the most epic battle ever. And it is the biggest letdown. The way it all goes down is crazy. I mean, the Night King pretty much makes his way through the castle. And then Arya, the youngest sister of Jon Snow, just stabs him. And he blows up. And then all his generals blow up, and everyone's fine. It's just like, what did we spend 7 seasons building this up for? Like, it was ridiculous. So it really felt to me like the writers just wanted to pack it out and be done. The finale episode, there was no battles, there was no really anything. It was just like showing that everyone pretty much got what they wanted besides Jon Snow. Everybody else kind of got what they wanted, and everybody was fine. And it was just, it just left so much to be desired. And for anybody who invested that much time, into watching this series, it's a big letdown. It just told me that from now on, if I don't start watching a series right away, and I get like 6 seasons behind, like I did, or 7, like I did with Game of Thrones, I'm never again going to watch like 7 seasons and then wait for the finale season. I'm just going to go ahead and wait till it's all over. And then if I start hearing that the finale was amazing, then I'm going to. Then I'll watch it. Because HBO has a knack for just delivering the biggest turd ball finales ever. First The Sopranos, now Game of Thrones. The only finale I've ever seen on HBO that I thought was perfect was 6 Feet Under. I thought it was fantastic, the finale. But this one was brutal, and it was brutal due to business. And I got to tell you guys, from working and directing, 40 music videos and, 5-6 features and a number of commercials and 30 television shows, budget is always something you come up against. It never feels like you have enough, because you can always think of something you would do better. So I'm not even presenting that as something they shouldn't have had to deal with. No matter what the production is, you're always going to want an extra day, an extra hour, an extra light, another cast member. You're always going to want more. That's, filmmaking 101. You always know you can do it better if you had thing that you need. So, they could have probably got past the budgetary issues, because there's a million ways to write things to get to the same kind of place, But what I think they could not overcome, like I said, was the 10 seasons to 8 and then losing so many episodes. It's just the nature of Hollywood. It's the nature of, Deadwood, which is my favorite HBO series ever, which didn't even give us a finale. It just ended after 3 seasons of perfection. I mean, absolute perfection. And I don't think they'll ever top Deadwood again. And but there was no ending. And now it's a decade later. And on the 31st of this month, in a week and a half from now, they're coming back with a 2-hour movie with the whole cast. And hopefully it pays off. I don't know how it can in 2 hours, the way Deadwood was structured. Deadwood was structured where each episode was the length of a day. An episode would start in the morning and it would end late at night. So I don't know how they could wrap everything up in 2 hours. I don't know. But there's one hell of a writer behind it and an amazing cast. So between Timothy Olyphant and the guy who played Al Swearingen, I always forget his name. But the cast is incredible. Ian McShane, that's his name. The cast is incredible, and that's coming back on the 31st. So let's hope that the Deadwood 2-hour, I guess, finale, you can call it, lives up to the hype a decade later. It'll be great to see all those characters. It'll be interesting, though. Again, yesterday was a really heavy episode, and, definitely give it a listen if you missed it. And today I just wanted to kind of lighten it up a little bit, talk about a real current event, do something a little bit different, and we'll get back into the world of weirdness tomorrow. But I just wanted to keep it light. Just keep it light for once, man. That's all. Just keep it light. Let me know what you guys thought about the finale of Game of Thrones below. Did you enjoy it? And if you did, let me know what you liked about it. And if you thought it sucked, let me know that too. And tell me why. Tell me what part of the story just missed for you. Just really, really didn't work, okay? Awesome, everybody. Thank you for listening to episode number 58 of the In a Crowded Room podcast. I will be back tomorrow with more. All the best.